All right, I will call the meeting to order. Roll call is being taken electronically. This meeting of the Ripon Area School District Board of Education has been properly noticed in accordance with the open meeting law and state statute 19.84 and related legal references. Our district vision, one of Wisconsin's finest school districts, fostering excellence for all through innovation. And the first thing we'd like to do is recognize members of the equestrian team. So please step forward. So tell us about the state championship.
Can I introduce the girls?
Absolutely.
Maddie Weiss, Amanda Beck, Annie Beck, Delaney Lemke, and Emily Hunter. And we're going to start with Maddie.
And can you introduce yourself?
Oh, I'm Joan Silloway.
I am Maddie Weiss. I am a senior this year, and I competed with my great teammates. And our first show was in Oshkosh in the end of September, and that led us to get to state, which was the end of October. Are you saying what we did?
Yeah.
Okay. I competed in Western horsemanship, or Western showmanship, English showmanship, ranch riding, reining, and trail with my horse Maisie.
Do you want to tell them a little bit about your classes that you were in, what you do?
Yep, so the two showmanship classes, so Western showmanship and English showmanship, are on the ground where you do a pattern class. So the judges give out a set pattern for that day that each exhibitor in those classes has to memorize and go through, and then you go and present the pattern in the class, and then that's the same with Western horsemanship. You're just riding in that class. Trail, you're going through a bunch of obstacles, over poles, through a gate, over a bridge. Ranch riding is kind of in that ranch setting, so like where the horse speeds up, then slows down, goes over a couple poles, spins around each direction, backs up, and then reining is also like that faster version. I don't know if you guys have seen like the horses that run, do the sliding stops, and then spin back around and run again and do the sliding stops. Yeah. I don't look as cool as that, but my horse did that. Okay, yeah, that was my adventures to this season.
My name is Annie Beck. I'm a freshman, and I showed in Western showmanship, horsemanship, eck, trail. I was the ghost and two-person relay and bareback. Oh, and walk trot. So, showmanship, Maddie already explained, which is on ground. And then she also already explained horsemanship. And then equitation is kind of the same thing as horsemanship, but it's a different discipline. So, horsemanship is Western, and the eck is English. And then bareback, you do not have a saddle on, and you can do that either Western or hunt seat, or saddle seat. And I did it hunt seat, and then I did walk trot, which you can do Western, hunt seat, or saddle seat, and I did that hunt seat. What else did I do?
Two-person relay.
And then, yeah, and then I was a ghost and two-person relay, which Delaney can explain.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and trail, which Maddie also explained.
My name is Delaney. I did all the speed events and in-hand trail. And like Amy said, we did the two-person relay together, which I started off with a baton, and I ran to the other end of the arena, handed it off to her, and she ran it back. And you try to see who gets the fastest time, which is for all the speed events. And for in-hand trail, like Maddie said, you go through a pattern and over obstacles, and you get judged.
In-hand trail is just on the ground, not riding.
Not riding.
Normal trails where you're in saddle.
I'm Emily. I ride saddle seat. My horse's name is Romeo.
We competed in saddle seat equitation, bareback, walk trot. At state, we competed in hunt seat equitation. Obstacles, driving? No, just at state. Yeah, saddle seat showmanship.
Hunt seat showmanship.
Yeah, hunt seat showmanship. Those are my classes. And then at districts, I did do obstacle driving, but that didn't go so well. So we did do that at state. For obstacle driving, your horse is like set up in a cart, and you have to go through and around obstacles. For hunt seat showmanship, Maddie explained, and saddle seat showmanship, it's just different tack and has different standards, but it's still the same concept as Western and hunt seat showmanship. Same as saddle seat equitation. For walk trot, I showed in saddle seat gear, and bareback, I also showed in saddle seat gear.
Any questions?
I'm really curious about the difference between saddle seat and hunt seat.
They're both a type of English, but in saddle seats, just in my opinion, a lot more. The horses and the people look a lot more uptight, I would say, because the horses are lifting their legs up really high.
They cramps a little bit more.
Yeah, and their head is like, yeah, it's set high. It's bent kind of like I would describe it as a swan's neck. And then whereas hunt seat, it's
More level
lower.
head.
Yeah,
And more of,
level.
more of a stretch in the legs.
Yeah. And I think I kind of rode both, and I think saddle seat is faster paced than hunt seat.
How did it all go?
Yep, it was a great season. During districts, which was the end of September, we were all, Jones and I like to share our standings with us. She likes to keep us in suspense, so we always put our best foot forward in our classes. And we ended up, the grand reserve from districts to state, and we ended up taking grand by 1 point compared to our other opponent. So it was very tight competition the whole time, but we did very well. Yeah, and then we got down to state. We had a couple tough classes that kind of started us off poorly, but I mean, we still ended up well. We did very well as a team, no complaints. Had fun this season. I had fun. Great group of girls. Yeah. And coach. Yeah.
How many schools competed at state? 14.
Or 16 in our
division, I believe.
Wasn't it 14 in our division?
Yeah, 14 in our
14 in our
in
division.
ours. I know that there was a total of like 180 kids. I don't remember how many schools there were all together. There's an A, B, C, and D division, and we were D.
We were C.
Or C. Your divisions are on how many students are in the class or grade.
It must have been, with that many people and horses, it must have been quite an event.
It was up a little bit this year from last year, which I didn't think it was until I actually looked at the numbers. I was kind of surprised. So,
Is this something you guys do then year round?
Yep. Yeah, horses are you gotta prioritize sometimes, and you can't just let them sit and then pick up this sport. If you're gonna get into a horse, you gotta be fully committed. It's a year-round practicing, year-round, just like that's just one part of our season. I mean, all of us girls are showing all summer, all winter, trying to keep them in shape, not just let them sit.
Congratulations.
Okay, and before you leave, you've got certificates.
Are we done?
Thank you. Thank you.
right. There are no written comments and no one has signed up to speak. Are there any requests to change the agenda in any way? Seeing none, we'll adopt it as presented. And we'll move on to announcement of contributions to the district.
The East Central Benefit Tractor Cruise donated $3,866 to the Student Needs Funds. And then the following individuals or organizations donated more than $250 to our Ripon Education Foundation. And that includes Alliance Laundry Systems, Robert and Joan Murray, Santa Care, Ripon FFA, Margaret Betsy Heffernan, Century 21, Sean and Carissa Karsten. And then the Diedrich Agency donated $2,000, which was the third payment of a $10,000 pledge, the Ingalls Field Group. And the Women of Ripon Emmanuel United Methodist Church donated $500 to the Student Needs Funds. So we're very thankful for those donations.
Definitely. So we have a special presentation. So some information regarding the opportunity for student travel to Costa Rica through the World Language Program.
Yes, hello, good evening. I'm Marta Yernak, and I am requesting authorization for taking my students to a trip to Costa Rica next year's spring break. And the tricky part is that we might need to take a day or two, depending on the date that it falls for the traveling purposes. It's through EF, the same company that we've used in the past. And yeah, so I know that you have the information. I don't know if you have any questions about it. It would be, well, granted that we will have the number of students, it would be our entire department going. So Sarah Seidler and Adrian Granados would be the three Spanish teachers coming.
Anyone have any questions?
It looks fantastic. Will you be raising money, fundraising for it?
Yes, the kids are really proactive. Immediately they developed a long list of ideas, and hopefully we can get to a bunch of them, yes, as soon as we have the yes.
And do you have a preliminary idea of how many students might want to be able to go?
I honestly don't. We haven't had a trip for a long time now, so that has raised more interest. I am against taking a large group like we did that other time. I hope they would be enough to have our private tour so that we are not with another school district. As fun as that can be, well, it has also some limitations when it comes to the dates that we require and maybe some clashing among kids. If that is, I mean, if we get our, it's about 30 to 40 kids to have the private tour, so we can evaluate from that. I'm happy that Sarah is coming also because I apparently have no backbone and I don't know how to say no sometimes. I really don't, I don't want to have a large group. But then when kids come and say, well, I'm gonna graduate and before blah, 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 and then you're like, ugh. So at this point I say no more than 40, but chances are that my lack of a backbone may allow some more kids out. We'll see.
So is it basically first come, first serve?
Yes. Actually, this time we're giving a head start to the seniors for next year.
Right.
So they would be having, I believe, 3 or 4 days ahead of time where they can sign up, and then we'll be for the rest.
So they have a full year to raise money for it then?
Right. Yes.
Any other questions?
Are 2 adults enough, or would you look for parent chaperones?
Well, we have 3, would be Sarah Sadler, myself, and Mr. Granados.
Oh, that's right.
But if there's a need for more, let's say that we open up for more kids and we need another, we would open it up probably for staff first. The problem with taking parent chaperones is that first, how did you choose one over the other, first of all, and then, in my experience, we have had some issues in the past with.
Yeah.
It just comes to be like a conflict of I don't know, authority, if you will. Like in the past, we had parents that commit and say, yes, we're going to follow the same rules that like you're not supposed to. Kids are not supposed to be at the bars, for example, in the hotels and things like that. And then we did have that, like, oh, because mom said yes, then I'm with mom. And then it is just, yeah. So, and then also the opportunity for kids. I think that one of the biggest things of a trip like this as a student is also for students to become more independent and just kind of step out of their home and try that independence. It's really not a family trip. We are bringing the curriculum there too, and plus as a family trip would be even cheaper. And yeah, so I'm not certain. At this point, as a department, we think it's not a good idea, but we're not going to say no. Like we'll just evaluate as it comes.
Yeah, they're supporting a school trip if a parent goes versus it being a vacation, and that could be, that can be confusing.
Yeah, but then again, it just comes, it puts us in a very cumbersome situation because it's like, okay, we did talk about this in the meetings and say this is how it is, and oh yeah, well, and then once we're there, not, and then what do we say? Like, we can't score a parent. It's just very difficult, so.
Okay.
Awesome.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Nia Tours is a solid tour group too, and they pack a lot in on a trip, so I think you'll have a good trip with them too.
Thank you, Mom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Carrie's not here. So we'll move past the student representative report to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Or are there any, first of all, are there any items anyone wants removed? I think so. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
I got Tom. And a second? Nicole? And we may vote. And it's passed unanimously. So we'll move on to possible upcoming action items. And the first one is a possible exception to allow students to use their own personal devices, which we don't normally do, but this would be for students taking college courses where they have a need for software that doesn't work on their computer, I assume.
Yes, that would be exactly it. We do have some of the sites that use Java and Flash, and sometimes it doesn't work that great with our Chromebooks. I've had to do a little bit of fighting with them. Also, a local version of Office. They have that, and it's easier for them to post to the class. And it wasn't my intention to make it more difficult for the students. And just in talking with them, it would be easier for them to use for the college courses their personal device. And since we could put them on our public Wi-Fi, which is firewalled off, it would protect us. So really, the whole idea is to lower the number of devices, but not make it difficult for the students.
Anybody have any questions? Sounds pretty reasonable.
Yeah,
Makes
that
sense.
makes sense.
Thank you.
Nice compromise, thank you.
Thank you. Next one is the 2023-24 school calendar. This is actual approval. No, this is possible upcoming action. Good.
I just have one question about the calendar.
Yes.
So when we're looking at March, you've got spring break, and then the following week, you have Friday night. It's a vacation day, so that's not a teacher in service day?
That's Good Friday.
So that's,
I know, it's just because Easter's so early.
yeah.
It fell that way, it doesn't usually fall that way.
Right, because it's like they're gone, then they're back, then
I
they're
know,
gone.
yeah.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions on the calendars? Have you had feedback from all different
Yeah, we sent it out, it's the same,
Okay.
it's the same model, you know,
Well,
that
one,
we used.
oh, sorry, Mary, I didn't mean to interrupt. But just one question or thought that I had, why not just shift spring break to that last week of March instead of spring break and then day off for Good Friday?
Yeah, because when we approved the model of the calendar, we go with the third week in March. We committed to that week.
Okay.
So we don't shift it every year just to have a, you know what I mean? We let it fall there and then it stays.
Okay, I was just curious since it was only a week separation.
It does fall at the end of third quarter, so that does give a little bit of time in there with grades and those kind of things that need to be submitted. Although it's a day off, there are teachers that use it actually to do some of that work.
Okay, thank you.
Other comments?
David.
Go ahead, Tony.
Some schools start before September 1st. Was there any thought given to that?
We can't legally to start before September 1st.
We have to ask DPI for,
And it's only very rare exceptions, you know, if there's construction or it wouldn't be anything that we would qualify for. So you can't start early. What we do with the orientation days, they actually are part of our summer school. And so we take care of that work through summer school, which gives us a little bit more solid instruction time on those first 2 days of school. But yeah, I wish we could.
Anything else? All right. Next one is to consider approval of secondary teacher job description. So we'll continue with the preparing job descriptions. Any comments about this one? All right. Possible assistant golf coach position. Comments or questions about that? All right, then we will move on to superintendent reports.
All right. No real legislative updates, but we're all very excited about our referendum results. And we posted those here, so this is our first official meeting to celebrate those. And have included those as well as I think shared out with the board, just how they kind of have compared with the previous referendum. So, and then Jolene takes care of the Board of Campus and all the certifications. So a huge thank you to her for all of her work around the election. She makes it look easy, but it is a lot of extra work, so thank you for that. The other thing that we always like to talk about at this time is an appointment of the WASB Delegate Assembly Representative, because in January we will have our State Education Convention. So if there's anyone that has interest in stepping into that role for Ripon, that would be wonderful. Speak now. And we'll wait till we hear some.
Jolene, can you remember the dates of the convention?
Let me just quick Google it.
It's usually the third week, I think. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Always conflicts with the start of the colleges.
18, 19, and 20 of January.
Yep.
January 18th through the 20th.
We have 5 rooms reserved for our
for anybody who wants to stay overnight right now. And right now, we're in the early bird registration period, so it's advantageous to us if you know that you want to go, to let me know so that we can take advantage of that.
How long is early bird for?
I don't know the date that it's ending. Typically, they end at like early December.
Okay.
Maybe I can hop on the WASB website and kind of take a look at that while you guys continue.
Thanks.
Okay.
So you might all think about it. Who did it last year? Did anybody do it last year?
Didn't we have like a
Because Tom couldn't go last year.
Isn't it virtual
They
last year?
ended up flipping to be virtual last year.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Last year was
Maybe even before. We haven't been there in a long
I
time.
didn't think it was virtual last year.
It wasn't going to be virtual last year, but it may have.
Because I remember planning on being there, I think last year and then I had COVID, so.
I think they had an option for it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They sent, it was like recordings of certain sessions afterwards if you did the virtual option, but it was not what it was the year before when everything was virtual. That was a pretty
Right.
sophisticated
I think it was
process
right
with
before the
lots of
changes.
interaction.
Like on meals and.
December 15th.
Thanks, Lou. Yeah.
Are you going, Tom?
I don't know yet.
So December 15th is the end of
Early bird.
So we could,
Gary?
so we could probably make a decision at the work session. So you have a little bit of time to think about it. All right, thank you. So curriculum department highlights for November. Comments, questions, anything we should pay extra attention to? I didn't see anything.
Assessment.
Yeah, I was just going to say our first round of state assessment starts December 1st with our EL students. And then we truly have entered assessment season because it goes from Access to ACT to Wisconsin Forward. And so it begins. Yes, December 1st is our first round coming up.
All right, we'll move on. The interim budget report, any questions or comments about that? We appear to be running essentially the same as we were last year. Food service, any questions or comments about that? Summer school financial report. Well, just because I think we need to talk about something. Why do we lose money? So we make, revenue's not that different, but expenses must be up. What are the expenses that caused us to lose money?
Expenses were only up about $250. So the expenses were barely up. The revenue was down slightly, just with a little bit less participation.
It just seemed a big change from, essentially breaking even this year, but it was profit of 21,000 last year, and the numbers didn't seem that wildly different.
I could go on. I'll go on a soapbox for just 1 second, which is our expenses are increasing, but our revenue is frozen. So we don't have a bump in our per pupil amount for per pupil aid or within the revenue limit. So even as we're buying classroom supplies and busing and fuel and utilities and all these little things that add up to summer school expenses, our revenue was frozen at the levels that they were from 2019. So being on a soapbox, one explanation is, hey, things are rising with inflation, but our per pupil revenue is not rising. And if it had, we would have had a net income. it's just, it's at $121 loss, it's basically flat. I mean, it means nothing, you know, $121. So.
I was just curious because I'm trying to figure out what the difference was, but it really is just the general increase in expenditures and the fact that the income's flat.
Yeah, and we had a slightly few, you know, just a little bit less student participation, and I know that we're doing a lot to increase student participation, and there were courses that were added, and I think the middle school had really good participation, and Murray Park was full.
We couldn't take any more kids. We had to turn kids away. We were absolutely full.
Yeah, so just didn't have as many minutes overall. And it could be from things like band. We didn't have as many minutes from like band and choir and things as we would normally. So it wasn't a huge difference. 2 students difference on the revenue limit. It was 29 last year. This year it was 27. The number of minutes that we get to count as a pupil. But one other thing I just want to mention is that it is so cool that we have a summer school, and we have as complex of a summer school as we do, because not only does it help us with the number of student FTE that we get to count within the revenue limit, but more importantly, I think it's just a huge contributing factor towards stopping the summer slide. And so it's really, really important that we have that.
If I can tell you, Chrissy, that I'm hoping that my new colleague is going to do some computer science for summer school this year.
That would be fantastic.
She's got a 30-year history in Maryland of getting into the schools and doing stuff. That's what she really wants to do. So.
Wonderful. Send her my way.
She did it for Boys and Girls Club last summer, so
yeah.
We'll move her over to the school district.
Wonderful.
Any comments or questions on any of the school operations reports, highlights from all the different schools? And we also have the final Catalyst Charter School annual 2022 report. All right, somehow I have the feeling that this is a Thanksgiving week school board meeting. I'm ready to take a motion to convene the closed session. We have one item of business to take care of.
So moved.
I'll second that.
All right. Thank you. Please vote. Josh, have you got the thing up there? Yeah. All right. You may all go home.